Welcome to Business Notes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. My guest today is Debbie Peterson. Debbie is a business keynote speaker, career growth strategist, and mentor. Debbie runs a speaking and coaching business to help her audiences and clients develop a focused mindset for fulfilling professional results by harnessing the power of their thoughts. Debbie is the creator of Career Success Circle Mastermind and the Way Forward in Career and Life Mastery program for women leaders and emerging leaders who want to create next-level success without the sacrifice. She is a professional member of the National Speakers Association, Women's Speakers Association, and an author with her book, Clarity: How Smart Professionals Create Career Success on Their Terms, released in 2019. Debbie has long been an advocate for professional women, and in 2015, she stepped onto the board of Athena International, a global organization committed to supporting, developing, and honoring women leaders. She is also a member of the International Women's Forum, Women's Business Collaborative, and Network of Executive Women. On a personal note, Debbie boycotts winter and chases sunshine from Pennsylvania to Florida each year with her husband, Tom. Debbie, welcome to Business Notes, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh my goodness, Diane, it's such a pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to have you. Tell our audience, what is Clarity all about and who is that for?
Clarity is one of those things I joke that most people don't know that they need, but when they find it, they just experience this profound relief. And so the answer to the second part of the question is everybody. If we run around as individuals, personally, professionally, just throwing spaghetti at the wall, and I used to work at an Italian restaurant, and we actually did that, it's not an effective strategy. And clarity is for someone who really wants to make aligned decisions with them, that it's not chasing everything, that it is making intentional decisions about the right things.
Interesting. Yes. And tell me, why do you do what you do?
Well, there's a story there, in case you haven't guessed by the chuckle. Why I do what I do is because in my corporate career, I played so small for such a long period of time. And you get these feelings that say you're meant to do something different. You're supposed to pay attention to them. Well, I wasn't. I was totally oblivious to it. And what ended up happening is that I found myself in a place that I was so profoundly dissatisfied and disconnected. I equate it to living in a glass jar with a lid, that I could see things outside of me, but I couldn't access them anymore. I mean, anything that brought me joy, that I really cared about, I just didn't. And it got to the point where I would wake up in the morning and, look at myself in the mirror and think, who are you? And where did that girl go? And the scariest part was, how am I going to get back to what that was? Because at this point, profound just dissatisfaction with my entire life. It really started in career, but my answer was to chase perfectionism. And I don't know if you've ever done that, Diane.
Oh, no.
And even though we know it doesn't exist, although back then I don't know if I did know that didn't exist. And I just pursued it hard. It was trying to be the perfect size and working out. And it was trying to be, just the perfect mom. Making sure I have one child, Mitch, making sure that, he made the right friends and got the good grades and made it onto the teams and almost like I was omnipotent, that the whole world revolved around me and it was my responsibility. And that's heavy. And I know a lot of women fall into that trap of they are responsible for everyone and everything. And that takes a lot of energy, and much more energy than you have. And for me, what ended up happening is having heart palpitations. And, my heart would just thud in my chest and kind of skitter around in my throat. I was having numbness in my left hand. I couldn't get a full breath. Like I just couldn't just that deep breath where you sigh on the exhale. I couldn't get there. And it really started to worry me. And I ended up going to the doctor. And it's funny because, the control freak that I am, I already knew what he was going to say. It was going to be heart disease because I had heart disease on both sides of my family. And my very first thought, Diane, was, I don't have time for this. And have you done that? I'm a strong woman. I can get through this, suck it up, buttercup. And, and we say those things to ourselves, and we have those expectations of ourselves when we don't of anybody else. And so for me, it was just ending up on the other side of it. I mean, by the age of 40, I am on high blood pressure medicine. I'm on migraine medicine for these just continual migraines I'm having. And then I'm on anti-anxiety medicine. So it was kind of like, this is not the direction I want my life to go. I had the vision of my grandma, filling up her pill slots for the week, right? With all the little tabs. And I thought, no, something's got to change. And it wasn't long after that I ended up going to a training for work, interestingly enough, but it was all about mindset. And I really started to understand the power of the mind and how I was getting in my own way, how I had just a boatload of limiting beliefs holding me back from my true potential. I wasn't made to play small. I was meant to show up in a certain way in this world. And getting to the other side of that, where the symptoms went away and the medicines went away, I thought, okay, I got to pay it forward. I don't know what it looks like, but I got to pay it forward. And that is literally what got me to this point. One night in the middle of the night, I woke up and getting to clarity was what was on my mind. And I went downstairs and the URL was available. And I thought, okay, here we go. I'll figure it out. And it's just been a journey of profound satisfaction and meaning to be able to do what I do.
I love the way that you just took the reins though, and you jumped in and you took that URL and said, I'll figure it out. So many people get in their own way and just wait for that perfect moment, as you say. It's not coming. I hate to tell you, but
if it hasn't shown up thus far, then, if you do what you've done and you get what you've got. So it's time to try a different strategy. And sometimes that's out of necessity. For me, it was just, I had no choice. I had to figure this out. One, it was for the sake of my health on the first side of the journey. Second, on the latter part, and the part that I'm on today. And who knows, maybe there's a third act in this. It's just because I had such a shift when I really understood the power of my own mind, and that the stories I have been telling myself were lies. They weren't true. And it could be a very different experience if I chose, and I chose. And so now I want to help other people choose.
Yeah, good. Tell us, Debbie, what changes have you seen in the way people climb the career ladder today as opposed to years ago?
Especially this last year and a half, the way people climb the career ladder is no longer, in my opinion, vertical. It's kind of a combination of vertical and horizontal. Especially, I do a lot of work in financial services for women in leadership, aspiring leaders, emerging leaders in financial services, and primarily male-dominated industries. And in order for people to aspire to get to another level, usually it might be a shift. It might be kind of a horizontal shift, a sideways shift with more potential then. But the biggest thing that I am seeing, and especially after this pandemic, are the choices that people are making. Ever since things shut down, just the messages that I would see, the people that I would talk to, because I do a lot of, I offer strategy sessions for people to see, what it is that they're looking for, and if there's a way that I can help. And, I hear that what I thought was important isn't important anymore. What I thought I wanted isn't really what I wanted anymore. And yet a lot of people don't know what that is. What is it that you do want? And I see a lot of people turning to authenticity for themselves, of really figuring out what is meaningful for them, defining their own version of success, and where they want to go. That's the biggest shift. Is it's not just, okay, here's the routine, here are the steps, this is what I need to do according to someone else. It is, all right, let me figure out what I want to do.
Right. It's your career.
Exactly. And even if you're not in leadership, you're still the leader of your own life and your own career. You're in charge. I'm sure you've heard that before. You are the CEO of your own career.
Yeah, that's true. That's
decisions.
true. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the rungs on the ladder are broken. They've been moved. Some are missing now.
Reconfigured.
That's right.
Like chutes and ladders when you were a kid, it's kind of like the board game,
Great analogy. Yeah. So Debbie, what do you think about the Great Resignation?
I had a chuckle when I started seeing articles with that title, the play on words there. And, I think that the pandemic forced us into innovation. And certainly if you look at organizations and companies and look at all the things pre-pandemic, that's like, no, you can't do that virtually. They had to figure it out, so that we busted through all of those myths. And I think people along the same ways are doing, the same thing. I'm going to make a shift. I'm going to choose something different. This is no longer acceptable. So, tying into what I said before, and people, a lot of women had to step out of the workforce during the pandemic for multiple reasons, which is just, heartbreaking on some level. And I believe it is and there's something on the other side. It's an opportunity to make a better decision, to see something that you didn't think was possible before and reach for that. So, I believe there's another side to that, but because of, aging parents and schooling children and children who were ill, and a lot of women stepped out of the workforce. So when it comes to, balancing leadership and my perspective in the work that I do is to support the women in the pipeline and the women in leadership to more level, to the next level. That doesn't mean it's replacing a man. It's not either or, it's and. Again, it goes back to making those choices for you. And I just think that, if it has this kind of visibility, that it's been labeled in that way, then there's a lot of shift coming.
Yeah. To that point, Debbie, what advice would you give to those people who left the workforce, and also to employers who are now left with these voids? What advice would you give to them?
I can't help but feel, to the latter part of your question, everywhere that I go, there is a help wanted, we're hiring, here are all our great benefits, signage. I mean, everywhere from, gas stations to billboards to, walking into a Panera or whatever the case may be, everybody is hiring. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And there will be a lot of shift coming this summer and this fall. But what I believe is that, it's time for employers to realize that the days of, you ought to be happy you have a job are gone. Employers need to be more flexible in their hiring decisions. It is being clear on the skills and attributes that they need and making the right hires. So for instance, I use a tool with my clients that I also share with my corporate clients that help the employers to figure out, this is the job that we need, and these are the behaviors and motivators that we need to fill this kind of position. So making educated decisions about what it is that they really need. And on the other side of it, for employers, it's getting to know your people as people. Getting to know your people as people is a long-term game. It is not a short-term game, but there is nothing more that is going to inspire loyalty and engagement and retention. All those buzzwords that they throw around in this market. So it's just been flexibility, having some flexibility. So for the people who are looking, know what you want.
Mm.
But I highly advise some introspection on the front side of you making a shift. And, when I recommend that, if there are three things that I think people should have going into a job search or going into the next level of their career, next level of their life, whatever, we're one person. We have multiple aspects, but we're one person. And it comes down to be, do, and have. Be, do, and have in the professional and personal development world is a phrase that's bandied about a lot. And I think that people need to be authentic. And a lot of people don't know who their authentic selves are. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they love. They don't know where the line is in the sand. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know their boundaries as a person because we've been adapting for so long. And I think that to have success and fulfillment, you really need to figure out who you are and bring your best, highest and self to whatever endeavor is next for you, whether that is a new role in your current organization. Perhaps you're in that camp of peace out, I'm done here, I'm going to figure out my next chapter, bringing that to your next chapter as well. So really, being your authentic self. And as far as the do, it's when you figure out who you are authentically, it's taking inspired action in that direction. So not losing sight of that, acknowledging it and then walking away from it. It's the do is taking an inspired action in that direction. And the have is having clarity about what does all of that mean for me and the choices that I make.
And what top three things do you think women should do today to build their career?
It would go back to the authenticity is the biggest thing, women to get ahead in their career. I mean, we have been told it all, you need to speak up, you need to show up in a different way. You try to be someone else and you come across as being, the B word. And it seems like there's never a win. But when you really have clarity on who you are as a person and your boundaries and values, what's important to you, what you're passionate about, when I told in the beginning about how I pretty much just hit the wall in my corporate career, I had just lost touch with everything that was important to me. And I know a lot of people are in that situation right now. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They're just in a place that they know it's not what they want, but they don't know how to move forward. And so, the first thing is tapping into that authentic self, because, either you are going to shape the organization, you are put on this world with your gifts for a reason, you're meant to share them, you have something to contribute, you've got a unique way that you show up, you've got a unique way that you think. And you've got to be willing to bring that. So if you don't know what that is, then it's the organization shaping you. And that is why that is so important. So really having that clarity about your authentic self is the biggest thing. And then, after that, after you know who you are. So here's the deal. To explain this, to give a little metaphor around this, is that, we grow up, and as we're kids, life is about potential, everything's out in front of us. And then, we graduate from either high school or college or with our master's degree or a PhD, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden it's the real world, right? The real world. And we think about, we're born as who we're meant to be, but then we're thinking about, well, what is it that I need to do to have the things that I want to have? And so, it's the jewelry, it's the trips, it's the houses, it's the cars. In my case, it's the handbags. But after a while, those kind of lose their luster. And I think at some point, I know this was the case with me. This is the case with a lot of my clients and even audiences that I speak to. They get to the point where it's just like, I just want to be fulfilled. I want to be satisfied. I want to enjoy what I do. I want to have something that's meaningful, something I'm passionate about. And that's, so you go looking for that meaning. But what if you inverted that? And instead of, this is what I need to do so I can have what I want, and then you end up chasing that meaning, who you're supposed to be. What if you started with the be? And again, that authenticity, figuring out who you are meant to be, getting answers to those questions, because then when you ask, what is it that I'm meant to do so that I can have what I'm meant to have? It's a whole, it's not chasing everything. It's inverted it, and it's focused on the right things. So inverting that be, do, have.
Mm. Yeah, you know,
Or the
let me
have,
ask
do.
you, would you agree with this? I love what you're saying about being clear, because when you're clear, I think it makes it easier for you to know, like, to do the things you're told to do, like the networking, which mentor you need,
Yes.
which training you need to pursue. Would you agree that that clarity helps you with those types of tasks in building your career?
Diane, that is the foundation of everything that I do, and is having that clarity first.
Mm.
So when I take people through my system, there's 5 pieces to it. And so in my keynotes, in my coaching, in my retreats, even in my book, everything goes around this system. And the first is mindset, really realizing the power of your mind, the influence that you can have over yourself, over your outcomes, when you shift how you think about your potential, when you think differently about yourself. So mindset is always the first piece, because the thing is that 95% of our thinking is unconscious. The majority of what we do every day, we don't even know it's running in the background. The mind is really efficient. And just like the habits that we make, the things that we repeatedly do become a habit. The things we repeatedly think become a habit. And they just kind of go, they run on automatic pilot. So if you are getting the results that you want, great. But if you're not, and you're trying everything that you know how to do, then likely it's here between these 6 inches. That's the basis of it all. And that's why mindset is first. The second piece of the system is around passion. What is it that you value? You know, what is it that you want to do? What are you curious about? When you think about something, what lights you up? You know, when you think about what's next and what's out in front of you, what gives you energy? You know, and so really spending some time there. The third piece of it is having a really good plan. You know, whenever anybody has, you know, a Post-it or an index card, and this is my goal, it's so vague. You've got to have an actionable goal. So, you know, having a system that you can chunk it down and you know what to do. The fourth thing is people. You are not going to do this by yourself. And believe me, I spent a lot of time there. You know, I was that woman who had to have everything going on, you know, just keeping all the balls in the air. And that's the way people saw me, because that was the facade I put out there. And so when I hit the wall, when I didn't know what I wanted, when I was miserable, nobody was allowed to know. Pay no attention to this woman behind the curtain, right? It's just like, I'm fine, you know, nothing to see here. And meanwhile, it's the energy of trying to make everything happen and it's not. And then it's the energy of putting up this facade that you're fine when you're not. Mm. People will help you get to where you want to go. And if you don't want to be stressed out and anxious all the time, you need to let them. That was a big lesson for me. And so it could be colleagues and coworkers. It could be mentors and sponsors. It could be coaches like me. It could be YouTube channels or books or whatever. But who are the people that are going to guide you and help you? Masterminds. That's another one. You know, I wouldn't have the business that I have without my mastermind. So it's allowing people in and allowing people to help you. And then the fifth part of it is performance. And that is about what gets in the way, because a lot of times we've got things figured out in our head, but when we go to implement, we get tripped up. Things like self-doubt, limiting beliefs, which are the lies you tell yourself, you know, negative emotions, you know, the stories that you've told yourself about career. I mean, think about it. From when you were a little kid, what was the message you got about career? I mean, when I look back at my dad, he was exhausted. It was a struggle for him. And so, you know, working through that story that I picked up, that work has to be hard. Not necessarily. When you're in the right place, making the right decisions, it becomes so much more easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Debbie, what is next for you?
Well, I'm so happy that you asked that. What is next for me? So actually later today, my podcast launches. So it is Success Without Sacrifice, and you can find it wherever you enjoy your podcasts. And it is about sharing more of those tools and strategies and stories and interviews that help you get beyond where you are so that you can create more success with less sacrifice, because it doesn't have to be an either or. It's, it's an and you get to make the choices about how you move forward and make decisions about what might have to go on the back burner for now, but it's not for always.
Congratulations. And you
Thank
heard it
you.
here first, folks. Yes. I'm sure that will be a huge success. Yes. So Debbie, why don't you do what you do for everyone? Why only women leaders and only emerging leaders?
Well, it's funny, and that's a really great question. When I started in my speaking business, I got a lot of pushback around that. And I tried to be everything for everybody. That's a recipe for stress for me. And so just like in my life, I work towards not being the answer to everyone and everything. In my business, I don't either. I believe that women and emerging leaders who have that question mark in their brain about what is my next level and how am I going to get there, whether that's personally or professionally, that's where I can have the biggest impact. That's where I resonate the most. That's where my content tends to resonate the most. Not that I don't work with men. I've had clients who are men and I work with them one-on-one, but what I choose to do is create a mastermind format for women in leadership and then for emerging leaders to really help them uncover their own answers, because it's not me telling them what to do. It's me asking questions. And as they consider these questions, they uncover their own answers and their own way forward. And so that's where I can have the most impact. So I do work with men. I just do it one-on-one. And I choose to, and I work with women one-on-one as well. But the group format is so impactful because of the other minds that are in the room. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but many hands make light work, right? A mastermind is where many minds make light work. I mean, you have the power of everybody in the room, whether that's a physical room or a virtual room. And right now I'm doing things virtually. It's just what comes out of that are bonds, and people have each other as resources and ideas that you've never thought of, and connections. Oh, hey, I know this person. Let me introduce you. It's just unbelievable when it happens that way.
Yeah. I'm in masterminds. They are very effective. And you are a certified virtual presenter, so you have that under your belt as well. And Debbie, people can get your book and look at your programs from your website, correct?
Yes. You can go to DebbiePetersonSpeaks.com. SON, although I've got the SEN diverting to there as well because people spell it different ways. The coaching can be found at gettingtoclarity.com.
Okay, great. Wow, you have brought so much great information and inspiration, and your passion for what you do is obvious. And I know that you bring that to each and every client that you coach and your audiences. I've seen some of the testimonials from men and women. So Debbie, thank you so much for being on the show today and bringing your message to the audience.
Diane, it was so my pleasure. I really appreciate being here. It was lovely to have a chance to chat.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Debbie Peterson, business keynote speaker, career growth strategist, and mentor. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.